Before we begin, a note to viewers. This episode contains descriptions of real acts of violence and discusses sensitive social issues, including gendered violence and stalking. Viewer discretion is advised. Seoul, May 17th, 2016. A city alive with neon lights, laughter spilling into the streets, the night ordinary and calm. But just off the main thoroughfare of Gangnam, behind the doors of a public restroom, something unspeakable waits. A 34-year-old man stands in silence. He has waited hours. When a young woman walks in, a stranger, he attacks. No provocation, no conversation, only rage. Later, he would tell police, "I did it because women have always ignored me." Tonight, we revisit a moment that shook South Korea, the Gangnam Station murder, and the conversations it ignited about gender, fear, and society. Near exit 10 of Gangnam Station, a young woman, only 23 years old, on her way to meet friends, becomes a victim of a brutal, senseless act. The perpetrator, identified only by his surname Kim, was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 2008. He had been hospitalized 4 times, yet was released without adequate follow-up care. Police confirmed there was no personal connection between him and the victim. Kim told investigators he targeted her because, quote, "Women had always looked down on me." Forensic experts later described the act as premeditated. He had entered the restroom multiple times that evening, waiting for a woman to arrive. The tragedy sparked not just horror, but something more. A realization that the crime had touched a collective nerve, a deep, long-standing tension between gender, mental health, and social resentment in modern Korea. In the days after, strangers began gathering at exit 10. They brought flowers, candles, and hundreds of post-it notes. Each one a voice in pastel. I could have been her. I survived. I'm scared, but I'm angry too. What began as mourning soon transformed into a movement. The wall of notes, known as the Gangnam Station post-it note protest, became an emblem of shared grief and resistance. As the messages multiplied, so did the questions. Was this a random act of violence born of untreated illness? Or was it a symptom of something far deeper? A reflection of everyday misogyny? Government officials were quick to call it not a hate crime, citing Kim's mental illness. But online, women's groups called that framing erasure. A viral slogan appeared across social media. This is not madness. This is misogyny. The memorial at exit 10, covered wall-to-wall in handwritten notes, remained for weeks until rain washed the paper away. But for many, its message stayed etched in the public consciousness. After Gangnam, the fear took on a new shape. Women began sharing stories, harassed on subways, being followed home, being told to smile by strangers. The murder crystallized a truth that many already felt but rarely voiced. In South Korea, being careful wasn't enough. A 2016 government study found that nearly 80% of Korean women reported experiencing some form of gender-based discrimination or harassment. In the weeks following the murder, feminist groups organized vigils and public discussions. The phrase, "it could have been me," became a rallying cry. But backlash came swiftly. Men's rights forums accused activists of hijacking tragedy. Some claimed men too were victims of unfair stereotyping. In online spaces, gender discourse curdled into hostility, marking a new era of polarization. The act of mourning had opened a wound. one that exposed the country's deepest divide. When Kim stood trial, the nation watched with silent unease. The courtroom was sterile, fluorescent light washing over every face. Kim did not deny the act. He did not apologize. He just repeated it. I killed because women ignored me. Psychiatrists testified that Kim suffered from chronic paranoid schizophrenia, characterized by delusions and auditory hallucinations. The court accepted his diagnosis, sentencing him to life imprisonment. For some, justice had been served. For others, it wasn't enough, because it framed misogyny as madness rather than confronting it as a social issue. Experts from the Korean Institute for Gender Equality noted that mental illness could explain the how, but not the why. Why were women, and not men, the target of his rage? Why did so many women recognize that fear instantly? Even as the gavel fell, silence lingered, not peace, but unease. 6 years later, headlines repeated a haunting pattern. September 14th, 2022. Sindang Station, Line 2. A 31-year-old Seoul Metro employee waiting for a colleague, a woman he had stalked for years. She had filed multiple police reports. She had begged for help. He was scheduled to appear in court the next day. Yet inside a restroom at Sindang Station, he attacked her fatally. Investigations revealed the failures. Repeated reports were filed, yet no immediate arrest. At the time, South Korea's stalking laws required victims to press charges for prosecution to continue. Many cases stalled when victims hesitated out of fear. This time, outrage was national. At candlelight vigils across Seoul, people asked, what did we learn from Gangnam? Why did it happen again? In response to the Sindang tragedy, lawmakers strengthened the Act on Punishment of Stalking Crimes in late 2022, allowing police to act without the victim's consent. But critics argue the change came too late. According to the Ministry of Justice, over 4,000 stalking cases were reported in 2022, a number that doubled from the previous year. Even with new laws, enforcement remains inconsistent. Officers often dismiss stalking as a lover's quarrel. Victims report that restraining orders are rarely monitored, and penalties are lenient. Experts from NPR and DW News note that the challenge isn't only legal, it's cultural. South Korea's rapid modernization brought economic equality faster than social equality. Traditional gender expectations, men as providers, women as deferential, remain embedded in workplaces, media, and relationships. At Sindang, every safeguard failed, not for lack of law, but for lack of urgency. The Gangnam Station murder is now seen by many as Korea's Me Too before Me Too. It ignited conversations about power, silence, and the boundaries of public grief. Cultural critics say it marked the beginning of a new feminist era in Korea, one met with fierce resistance. And the years that followed, female-led protests against spy cam crimes, workplace harassment, and online abuse gained momentum. By 2018, Seoul saw one of the largest women's rights demonstrations in history. Yet public discourse remains deeply divided. Online, gender tensions fuel political movements, from anti-feminist influencers to presidential candidates promising to abolish the Ministry of Gender Equality. For many women, progress feels fragile. For many men, a sense of alienation festers. Still, the candles lit at exit 10 have not gone dark. They have simply moved, burning in new corners of the city each time another life is lost. 2 crimes, 6 years apart. 2 women killed in spaces meant to be safe. a public restroom, a subway station. Each time, the nation mourned. Each time, change was promised. And each time, the question returned: has anything really changed? Violence rarely begins with a knife. It begins in words, in jokes, in online forums, in silence. These murders are not just about only one man's crime, but about the invisible habits that enable danger: disbelief, dismissal, and denial. Laws evolve, but attitudes change slower. And fear, especially for women, remains an unspoken constant. At Exit 10, the Post-its are gone, but the questions remain. How do we mourn without forgetting? How do we act before it happens again? In a world that asks women to be careful, when will it ask men to stop? This is Court of the Crane, stories from the shadows of Korea, where memory, justice, and truth converge. If this episode moved you, please like and subscribe and share. Your support helps us continue to tell stories that honor victims, challenge neglect, and remember the voices too often silenced.